I'm going to show you how I painted Cable for Marvel Crisis Protocol. He was primed with a light gray, and then I went in and laid flat colors for each part of the model. This yellow contrast paint is a perfect base coat for the X-Men yellow. By this point, I started to realize that the cape and the head were going to get in the way, so I decided to snap them off. I drilled a small pinhole and then crazy glued a wire so that I could paint the head and the cape separate. This made painting the body much easier. I faded on a couple of different shades of blue for the force field. After the flat colors were painted on, I could move on to step 2, which is the shades. I washed on a watered down black contrast paint for the base. I mixed up a darker blue shade for the blue parts. Washed in a little red for the logo. I then used this orangish yellow shade for all of the yellow parts of the X-Men uniform. This blue was perfect to wash on for the force field. And then I used Nolan oil for the smoke, his arm, and the gun. This shade is perfect for skin color. I also used it for the leather pouches as well. This was the perfect green contrast paint for the cloak. I used this contrast paint for his white hair. The washes were done, so I was ready to move on to the next step. I'm using my comic blobbing technique to add those flat colors back to the base. Then I painted a lighter gray for some weathering. The next step is to go back over all of the washed areas and brighten them up with flat colors. How I paint my X-Men yellow is to add white onto all of the highlights. Then I take some of the yellow contrast paint and wash it over all of the white. I'll add another white highlight to make a transition, after which I will wash on a moon yellow to give it that comic book pop. I then continue to add flat colors onto all the washed areas of the model. I washed on some Nolan oil for the teeth and added that 5 o'clock shadow. I dry brushed on various blues to brighten up the force field. The next step is the slowest part, which is to add in all of the comic book inking. For doing all the inking, I use a mixture of acrylic paint and water-based ink. This way I can control the thickness or the thinness of what I'm trying to achieve. The best way to learn where to put the shadows of the inks and lines and brush strokes is to study comic books. And it's not a big deal if you mess up with a certain ink or ink stroke. I'm going to go back over that again with some highlighting colors. Here I used my Micron pen to get in some of those technical lines. And for Cable's eye, I brushed on a white ink, let that dry, and then did an orangish yellow wash. For the final step, I painted on some highlights. Then I sealed the miniature with my favorite ultra matte varnish, assembled it, and was ready to game.